Coming up on this episode of DL Weekly, Mickey's Toontown has reopened. We have all the new details. Indiana Jones has returned with a few surprises.
Star Wars takes over May. New spa experiences, Easter treats. We talk about Disney as an adult and comparing coasts and more. This DL Weekly starts now.
Howdy, partners. For your safety, remain seated with your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the podcast. And be sure to watch your ears. If any of you folks are wearing hats or glasses, best remove them, because Tag and Teresa have the wildest ride in the wilderness.
Hello and welcome to this episode of DL Weekly for the week of March 22nd, 2023. I'm Tag Bushman.
I'm Erik Johnson. I've never podcasted before. Thank you to Heather G. for becoming an official weekly tier on our Patreon. Our supporters get some pretty fun perks like DL Weekly swag, plus bonus content and access to our Discord community. A special thank you to Stacy S., Patrice H., Josh S., and Bodie W. for your continued support. If you would like to have some more Disney magic in your day, head on over to dlweekly.net/support to join the community.
Well, this is awkward, Erik, because we find ourselves in the situation that it is a week for the D180, and you are here. So, What is our D180 this week, sir?
Oh, well, let's just... Hello, everyone. This is Erik Johnson with Concy Ears, and welcome to the D180. Well, Tag and Erik cover all things Disneyland. In the D180, we take a spin around the rest of the Disney universe, and we do it in 180 seconds. Let's jump right in. This is not going to be 180 seconds. I'm sorry. Because we start our journey in Walt Disney World, where the guests can finally partake in the soft opening of Tron Light Cycle / Run. It's hard for me to say. It's hard for you to read. It's hard for you to say. I know what you're thinking. No, the soft opening doesn't have anything to do with the title. That's set in stone. Starting this week, right now, any guest with a park ticket and a park reservation for the Magic Kingdom on the same day can use My Disney Experience, that app that we all love, to enter a virtual queue for the ride. Anybody who meets all of the requirements for using the app, having a park ticket, having a park reservation, all that stuff, you can enter a virtual queue starting at 7 a.m. every day. This is starting several days ago. March 20th is the day that you can start doing this. You come in at 7 a.m. and you can sign in to the virtual queue starting at 7 a.m. If you miss your 7 a.m. early deadline, try your hand at the 1 p.m. slot. Anybody vying for that group needs to be inside the park at that time. So if you're going for the 7 a.m., you just have to have a park reservation for the Magic Kingdom on that day. If you're going to go for the 1 p.m. slot, you need to be in the park. You have to have your reservation. You have to be scanned, all that stuff. You have to be in the park, and you get your 1 p.m. deadline. So we know how this goes when it comes to virtual queues. We've all seen this a few times, but get in that first group. That's kind of the general thing right now. It's a soft opening. It's not the full rollout of the attraction, because there's no guarantee that this ride is going to last all day long. So get in at 7 a.m. You can also pay for a lightning lane on those days that you're going to be at the park. And even then, there's no guarantee that you're going to be on the ride. I'm sure that if you don't get into this particular day, there's no guarantee that you're going to get in. So if you miss it, if the ride is down, I'm sure they'll refund your lightning lane. Tag,
that's good to know.
What's your virtual queue like? What's your go-to? What do you do when you have to do a virtual queue?
Oh, gosh. Well, it's been a while because the last virtual queue I did was for Rise of the Resistance, and I was one of those mad people sitting there right at 7 a.m., ready to hit the button in the app. And sometimes was successful, sometimes less so. But I find in general that the virtual queue system is pretty, I don't know, it's not a great guest experience. Let's just say that. I think
it's not perfect.
I know that they're trying to not have people stand in lines for hours and hours and hours. You know, they want to try to make a better experience by not having them do that. However, I feel like for the most equitable route is to just have a standby line and let it be like when Indiana Jones first opened and the line went all through Adventureland and all of down Main Street. I mean, there's something to be said. I know nobody likes waiting in lines, but there's something to be said about the excitement of seeing a long line for something of like, oh, that's going to be cool. And not all the poor people who you score your lightning lane and everybody is cheering because they got lucky enough to get a thing, and within 30 seconds, all of the spots are filled. Because, you know, us people that go to Disney a lot, that's not terrible. However, I think it is terrible if this is maybe your one trip to Walt Disney World that you're ever going to have, and it's your one opportunity to ride Tron, and now you're basically in a crapshoot. So,
yeah. I can remember one trip to Disneyland, also with the Rise of the Resistance experience. Early on in those days, I can remember I was out for a run with one of my pals and my buddy David, and I said, wait, we got to stop. He said, what are you doing? And I said, I got to get us like virtual queue for Rise of the Resistance. And that was during the virtual queue days. And sure enough, I stopped and I had my watch ready and I had a second hand going. And we just paused at a random spot on the sidewalk outside of Disneyland, directly behind Black Spire Outpost. And yeah, we got that thing. We got the virtual queue set up for everybody in the entire party, which was great because we were with a large group. But man, that sort of thing, it doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people who have never been to the parks, who haven't been to the parks in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very, you know, if you're listening to this podcast, a good majority of you understand all of these systems because you're a fan, you've kept up on it, you've listened to us or other podcasts for a chunk of time, and you understand this. We've talked about it a lot. But if you are a first-time guest, if you are a casual guest, if you're somebody that does not look at the Disney parks as a lifestyle like some folks do and looks at it more of a vacation destination, you know, when I go anywhere else on vacation, I don't have to go through this level of planning for these type of things. So it's kind of up in the air.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. It's very complicated, but if you're ready for it, and if you have a youth bring a youth with you who is who enjoys using apps. Oh yes, those young people. Bring one of them and tell them to do it, and they'll figure it out. It'll be great.
Well, they can have a miserable time.
There you go. Or a great time. That sense of satisfaction when they get the amazing booking for the entire family that gets them all onto Tron Light Cycle / Run. Let's just call it the Tron Ride. Outside of the Tron Ride, there's a new restaurant. Can we talk about that? This is still the D180. So outside of the restaurant there's an area outside of Tron and, well, the classic Space Mountain where there's a Joffrey's Coffee. I have to be very careful because otherwise I'll say Joffrey's Coffee. And
that's easy to do.
Joffrey's has a new set of menu items. It's Energy Bites, as they say. Bites with a Y because it's the internet. And during breakfast time, you can get a chocolate cake donut hole arrangement with mocha sauce. You can also get Joffrey's Coffee with there's a cold brew that they offer with some additional mocha sauce. So in the morning you can get some sweet things. In the afternoon you can get digital dumplings.
Ooh.
And this is interesting because it's another one of those things where they put it on the menu and they put it in it when you look on the Disney Parks blog, they have these very detailed rundowns of what you can get, and I'm sure it doesn't come in these very nice, very well presented dishes. But yeah, it's still food that you can get, and the reviews have been pretty positive so far, where you can get digital dumplings of buffalo chicken or beef and broccoli. I'm down with both of those. I mean, I'd take either one at any point in time. And then when you finish up with those digital dumplings, you can have a sweet treat of strawberry ice-o-form, because isoforms are the Tron universe computer programs that have gained sentience. And so strawberry ice-o-form, they really highlight that O, with ice cream mochi, graham crackers, and cheesecake foam, or you can have a watermelon refresher with yuzu and ginger flavors in there. I think this is good. I mean, there's not a whole lot to have in Tomorrowland, in Walt Disney World, and these are this is a new place to have some additional flavors. You can have some actual food in this place. It's all quick service. It's all just walk up and order, or you can do mobile order. I think it's pretty great. What do you think, Tech?
I just found the Disney Parks blog post on this, and I'm looking at some of the photos, and Disney is great at making things look good. So these things do look good. I mean, it makes me want to try them. However, I don't have a Disney World trip planned in the near future, but hopefully some of these things will still be there the next time I'm able to go. This mochi thing looks I love mochi. So
yeah.
And some of these drinks. I know Teresa, she's not here, but I feel like I have to speak up for her that I think she would like the cold brew.
I mean, Joffrey's Coffee has done a pretty good job of cold brew for a while now, and yeah, it's pretty solid. That looks like something I would have as well. Well, moving on from there, we're well beyond 180 seconds, but there are plenty of additional new magic moments. If you've paid for your PhotoPass on your Walt Disney World trip, there are video memories, so you can combine your videos, you can combine pictures, you can combine music and stickers related to the attractions that you've been on. This is a new thing in the PhotoPass portion of the My Disney Experience app, which is fun because that's what everybody wants to see. This is what everybody does. When they leave Walt Disney World, they have a whole bunch of different videos and pictures of their time there. So combining all of these things, having an opportunity to do this in the app, I think Disney is really stepping up and allowing you to have additional opportunities to add flair for those people who maybe don't take the time to do that on Instagram or TikTok, and it gives you a little extra pizzazz, right?
Yeah. I mean, they've been adding some more of these things to Disneyland too, adding some extras, special magic shots and stuff like that. I think they're kind of neat. I mean, they're not necessarily like, for me, this alone is not a selling point for PhotoPass for me, but it is nice when you do get PhotoPass that this is like an additional little benefit that you have.
Yeah, they keep adding on to it, and I think that's commendable. Because if they just did the old version of, all right, here's a bunch of pictures of you in the parks, that got old a long time ago. You can take pictures, you can have ride photos, but to have a little bit more to do with it, to add on to your experience, I think that's pretty great.
I thought the best idea that they had was when they did those shots from up on top of Main Street, like looking down into the hub with people, because that's a picture. There's no other way to get something like that.
Oh, yeah. And they have a new one. So they've added in these they call them tiny world magic shots. And it's this 360-degree thing that they've done. If you've ever done one of these, or if you've ever seen somebody clustered around this weird little ball on a stick.
Oh, yeah.
They started doing it in Galaxy's Edge, and I thought they were fantastic. And they now have them at all of the Walt Disney World parks. And the newest one they added in was at Cinderella's castle. And you can cluster around this big ball and have this shot with the castle in the background, but it kind of warps your perspective and gives you this really interesting view of the entire park based around this little spot. Have you done one of these, Tag?
I have
It's really
not.
hard to describe.
I've posted for those. We can have a link in the show notes to one of these too. But I have posted in our live chat that we're streaming to some examples of these.
Oh, yeah.
The Galaxy's Edge one is cool because it adds some, TIE fighters and stuff around the border.
Right.
And man, this one from Animal Kingdom looks really cool. It looks like you're on this like green island in the sky.
I haven't seen that Pandora one. That's really cool. The ones that they have from Magic Kingdom are basically behind you is Cinderella Castle. So you've got that in the shot, but then you have this view that also points in the opposite direction. So it's really fun. I really like these different views because anybody who's been to the parks more than once has all of these shots, and it's a way to give you something else.
Yeah, I think it's neat.
Well, should I wrap up the D180?
I think so.
Let's pretend this was 180 seconds, because that's 180 seconds. I hope you enjoyed our quick spin around the rest of the Disney universe. If you would like to learn more about these Disney adventures or just have a few questions, please come on over. Visit the social media and websites of both the DL Weekly and us, their official travel planners, Concy Ears. We look forward to planning something special for you and yours. I'm Erik Johnson, and this has been your D180. So now let's get to the news.
The Disneyland news.
Yeah, the Disneyland news.
All right. Well, after being closed for a year, Mickey's Toontown has reopened at Disneyland. The refreshed land greeted guests as a soft opening on Saturday after a media event in the morning, and then officially opened on Sunday. The newly reopened section has some of the same features the guests really liked in the already open section for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. There's a lot of grass, a new fountain for younger guests to play in, the Dreaming Tree, Goofy's How to Play Yard, which is fun for all ages, and more.
Yeah, I mean, so I've seen a fair amount about this grass. I don't know why having an area of grass is such
Fake
a big
grass
deal.
Even.
Well, yeah, that. But I guess if you've got kids, what else? I mean, where else in the parks can you just hang out for a little while? That's the big thing.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was forever, Toontown did not have like a lot of shade. That because everything was animated, right? Because it's a Toontown, that there weren't any actual trees, or there were very few actual trees. And so the fact that they now have greenery and they've kind of accepted that not everything is going to be a Toon-like thing, I think people are very excited about that. Plus, Toontown should be a place that parents can take their kids and let them roam around and have fun. It does offer something that other lands don't really have. It does have one entrance and exit, which is pretty easy to sit and monitor as a parent if you want to let your kid run around the land or whatever. And it's really easy to monitor that. Plus, I'm just glad that a lot of these things, Goofy's How to Play Yard and House, Donald's Boat, all of these things have finally come back. Sorry, it's Donald's Duck Pond now. But all of these things have come back in a new way, because previously these were kind of dead areas of this land. And I know that there was multiple people that was just wondering, why is Toontown even still a thing? It's just kind of, you go back there for Roger Rabbit Cartoon Spin, maybe. Now Minnie and Mickey's Runaway Railway is back there, so that's a huge draw. So I think it was a great idea for them to do this large renovation, and it looks great. I'm excited to actually see it. They've got this fountain that the kids and stuff can play in, and they, even on their social media accounts, the official Disney social media accounts, they said, hey, adults can play on this stuff too. There was a slide. I never would have gone down it as an adult because I would have thought it's for kids. But on the Disney social media accounts, they said it's for everybody. And they had some of their, adult staff, cast members, go down these slides. So I'm excited. I'm glad that some life has come to this area of the park, because it was very sad for a very long time.
Oh, yeah. Anytime you went back there, you're like, okay, well, I'm a grown adult and my wife and I would like to walk through this area and look at it. Okay, we're going to leave now.
Yep, exactly. Now, but it did have, nobody agrees with me on this, by the way, but I have fond memories of a kid of going back there and getting hot dogs from Pluto's Doghouse because I liked Disneyland hot dogs. I will say I have not had a regular Disneyland hot dog in a few visits now. So, and Pluto's Doghouse is no longer a thing, but I do like a good Disney hot dog.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that Pluto's had the same type of hot dog that you would get at
Coke Corner?
The Coke Corner. Because I was going to say Casey's Corner, because I'm a Walt Disney World person, but I remember going to...
We accept you, Eric.
Oh, thank you. I feel so seen. But one of the first times, the first meal that I had at Disneyland when I went there a very few years ago was at Coke Corner, and I had a regular hot dog, and it was great. Because they have a good hot dog. They have it's just a regular bun. There's nothing fancy about any of this stuff. But yeah, a regular hot dog. What's to complain about a regular hot dog? It's great. I assume that Pluto's had the same sort of thing. Yeah, it's just regular theme park fare. It's fantastic. Yeah.
There's something to be said, though, for a hot dog that you get somewhere, for instance, the movie theater or Disneyland or wherever, because I have never had a hot dog at home that has tasted as good as a movie theater or a Disneyland hot dog. There's something about the way they
That's
cook
fair,
them. Yeah. And so it's kind of a treat for me. I know it's a very simple thing. I know like tons of little kids love hot dogs and eat them all the time. I know my nieces love hot dogs, but for me, I want something I can't have at home or have the same flavor of at home. So maybe next time I go to the park, I'll make a point to try to get a hot dog. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's worthwhile. Even if it's not a fancy hot dog, there are plenty of fancy hot dogs around Disney parks because they're like, well, let's offer them something better than they can just make at home. But a boiled hot dog, sure, great, go for it. As long as it's a good hot dog, how can you go wrong?
Absolutely.
Well, apparently it's up to me here, the next one here. But let's continue talking about the new food in Toontown, because the atmosphere is great, but what about that food? The Disney food blog ordered and tried everything in the new land and had some mixed results. For drinks, they liked the Picnic Time Watermelon Lemonade with the Granny Goof's Garden Sweet Tea as their least favorite. For food, their favorite was the Spring Garden Wrap, with their least favorite being Daisy's Dressed Up Dog. Overall, a good offering of food for younger guests. Yeah, let's look into this a little bit.
Yeah, so I was really excited when they released some of the food offerings. I was very excited for the pizza flopovers because there's something about these. The pictures made them look delicious. It sounded like a neat take on something like a pizza. So I was very excited about this. Their review was kind of like, it was good. They thought that it was a little bland, but they said that that's good for like picky eaters. And I think a lot of times with little kids and stuff, you're going to have some picky eaters. You want to have more milder flavors for those folks. I mean, Disneyland's for everyone, but Toontown is definitely geared more towards kids. The thing that they loved, though, was this spring garden wrap. And Teresa was very excited to try this when we go. And, they said that it was delicious. If it was like their number one thing that they would get again in the land.
I mean, looking at the picture, sure, that looks great. I don't know that it would be the top of my list, but I mean, if they're saying it's great, I'm in. Yeah.
My confusion comes from the Disney Parks blog has this photo of the Daisy's Dressed Up Dog, which is an all-beef foot long with cheese sauce, mac and cheese, and Parmesan potato Crispies with house-made chips. And they're holding it vertical, and nothing is falling off of this. So it makes me feel like something dubious is going on here because it should fall off onto the ground. There's no reason that this thing being held vertically like it is should be staying together like it is. It makes me a little worried.
Yeah, it's a half foot bun covered with mac and cheese and a foot long dog. So what's holding all of this together? Right. A lot of dog, not a lot of bun, not a lot. I mean, there's the chili, there's the cheese. Something should be falling onto this person's hand. I love that picture.
Well, Toons, right? Maybe it's the Disney magic. Who knows?
There you go. Yeah.
That I am the most excited for is I continue for 2 years now at the Lamplight Lounge. They've had the cookies and cream donuts, and I have not had these yet. Teresa's had them. I have not had them yet. But in Toontown, there's Daisy's Goody Goody Donuts, and these are house made, which means they get made when you, like, they're made to order. So when you order them, they make them. And these look delicious. They look like what you'd get at the fair, right? Like fairs have like mini donuts and stuff, and they're always so good.
Freshly fried, dusted with sugar, and I'm sure cinnamon, right? Oh, yeah. I'm in for that.
And it's not bad.
I don't normally go for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's a good price. Head to the back of the park, have a little sweet treat, share it with your friends. Oh, yeah, those look great.
Now, I have to represent Teresa because, again, she's not here. So there is the specialty cold brew, which is made from Joffy's Cold Brew Caramel Mudslide with sea salt caramel toffee sauce topped with whipped cream. So the Disney food blog said that it was okay, but the toffee flavor was a little too much. To me, I'm excited. I like the toffee flavor, so I feel like when Teresa tries this, I am probably going to like it. And I don't even like coffee.
Yeah, I mean, well, I prefer coffee black, which is what I'm literally drinking right now during this show, is just black coffee. So adding a bunch of stuff into coffee, I'm never that into it, because it's like a shake at that point. Like just call it something else. But that said, I do love the offerings in Black Spire Outpost with the little Cocoa Puffs in there.
Oh, the Black Calf, yeah,
that's a. So I'm willing to try something different because you know what? I'm at Disneyland. Why not?
You know, that's been my motto about food lately. Even today for lunch, there was something new at the cafeteria at work, and I was like, you know what? I like on first blush, I don't know if I want this, but try something new, and it was pretty good. So
there you go.
Yourself.
Why not?
Well, continuing Toontown, because we have a lot of Toontown this week, a new popcorn bucket has arrived at the El Capitan Theater in Toontown. For $23, guests can pick up this at a Toontown popcorn cart. It's red and off-white with a hot, fresh, popcorn yummy written on the side. It's just a bunch of different words there. Looks like it's a pretty decent size. It seems like it's the size of the one that they offered that was just the old vintage Disneyland print before. But this one is for the El Capitan.
Yeah, I think it's great. I don't generally collect these, but if I was there, I might pick up one of these. It's really nice. It's got the little flip top. It's got your usual strap that you get on a Disneyland popcorn bucket. But yeah, it's fun. It's kind of understated in some ways. I mean, it's not like a Figment bucket where it's this large thing that doesn't make sense to the average person. But yeah, it's really fun. I think I would go for something like this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, an unexpected character is meeting and greeting guests in the newly reopened Toontown. It's Pete. I don't know what has happened to Pete, because Pete has been around in Disney animated cartoons since before Steamboat Willie, where he starred alongside Mickey Mouse himself as the captain of the steamboat that Mickey was working on. This is the first time Pete has been a meet and greet character in Toontown. Why do kids love Pete? I love Pete, but what's going on? What is it about these recent appearances of Pete in the cartoons? Why is everybody all about Pete? We finally have a Pete in the parks, in parades. I think it's fantastic. Tag?
I think so too, man. My follow-up to you is, you said, why do we have Pete everywhere? Well, why not have Pete everywhere?
Yeah, right. Why not?
Yeah, I feel like I've seen Pete in some things over the years, but honestly, until we did some research for this story, I didn't even know who Pete, like what had happened to Pete. Like, Pete, I was trying to figure out, is Pete Goofy's dad, or I guess it was his neighbor at some point or something, and he's usually the villain, but not necessarily always the villain. James was trying to explain this to me, and I feel like I just need to watch some more things.
Yeah, watch more Goof Troop, watch more Goofy movie, and the sequel. Yeah, Pete's been around for a long time. My favorite Pete is when he goes back to his villain role in Get a Horse. That you've seen that short, right? That's the one.
Don't know.
That's the more recent one where it breaks the fourth wall. Like, they literally break out of the theater screen and start running around on the stage. And yeah, definitely seek out Get a Horse. I'm sure I know it's on Disney Plus because I've watched it on Disney Plus. But yeah, that's one of my favorite Pete's because he goes back to his old villain roots.
Oh.
But yeah, he's in all of these other things. He's been in the Goofy TV. He's been on Goof Troop. He was in the Goofy movie. Pete's having a renaissance right now, I think, and good for him. Good for him, I say. Oh yeah,
I did find it on Disney Plus. I will. It's only 7 minutes, so I'm going to watch that later because I don't think I've ever seen it.
Oh, it's one of my favorite Disney Pixar shorts, and it's so great. Sorry for spoiling it for everybody, that there's a bit of fourth wall breaking where they literally rip out of the movie screen and they're doing things in the movie theater. Yeah, it's fantastic. I love it.
I love this premise. Okay, well, one of our favorite attractions has returned from refurbishment. The Indiana Jones Adventure reopened last week with some much-needed repairs and a couple of new surprises. First, the snake is back in operation. The projections used throughout are more vivid and sharp, and the boulder at the end is working again. Now, I will tell you, from this entire refurbishment, all I wanted was the snake and the boulder, and they gave us some extras, which is wonderful. In addition to this, there are a couple updated scenes and effects before and where the old rat room scene was before the dart room near the end of the attraction. Oh, I'm so happy this is back and working.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they don't have to do a whole lot. Like, just bring it back to what it was. As somebody who did not experience the attraction in its original form, with all the dry ice falling, all the rocks falling, all that sort of thing. But still, everything that I see here is, let's just bring it back to the way it was. Let's clean it up and, yeah, make it look cool again. So you don't get to the end and go, there's a boulder down the hallway.
Right. And it's rolling, right? But it's just kind of rolling in place.
There were so many times where I've been on this ride so many times, and there were times where I legitimately felt like I was in danger. And
okay,
right,
when it was working is what you're saying.
Well, yeah, when it was working, yeah, you got to have it working. You have to have at least the basics working, right?
Yep.
So that you actually feel like you're experiencing something.
Now, did you see, spoiler alert, by the way, for people who want to be spoiler free. Did you watch the video of the new scenes?
No, I have not, because I'm going in a few weeks and I want to experience it fresh.
Okay, I will not spoil it then. Go online. No. If you want to see some great things.
Spoil away. If I hear somebody talk about it, it's different than actually watching
I will leave it for you. I will leave it for you, because I think it's worth it. So if you want to see a comparison, Fresh Baked, David over at Fresh Baked on YouTube did a great comparison video showing the previous version of the attraction and the current version, which shows you all the stuff that was not working previously that is working now, the lighting, the projections. I will tell you, they added projections to the Mara section right at the beginning of the attraction, years ago, and I don't think they've ever looked better. I think they've added some 4K projectors. It's sharp. It looks like it's bright, and I just think it's the best version this has ever been. And they've used some of those things later on in the attraction, which has made it look really great. And I'm very happy the frickin' snake is working, because you're right. As you come around and that thing not moving, your car like jumps away, but you're like, what was that for? If you've never ridden it when it's working. So very happy that it's working. Very happy that it's back. And I'm excited to ride it when I go in May.
Yeah, you're going just slightly after me, so we're going to miss each other. But it'll be fine. I'm sure
you'll have to let me know.
Okay, I'll let you know. And I'm sure it's still going to be working. It'll be fine.
I hope so.
Yeah. Mickey's PhilharMagic has reopened in Disney California Adventure with some updates from its recent refurbishment. New upholstery was installed on the seats in the auditorium, and the carpet was replaced. There's also a new air conditioning system in the pre-show room, which, let me tell you, that's a definite bonus on either coast, because no matter where you are, this place has some good air conditioning, and it's a great place to cool off.
100%. Now, Eric, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but one of the other shows that you are a co-host on is the Supreme Resort, which, for those of you who are not aware, they basically pick an attraction, a land, a restaurant, etc., and they take the Disneyland version and the Disney World version, and they pit them against each other. Well, one of the episodes, you guys had a ranking of pre-shows, and this was up there on your pre-show ranking, was it not?
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, I can't remember how far it went, but yeah, as far as pre-shows go, on either coast, like especially, I guess I should say, especially on the East Coast, it's really great. You've got this large room, it's very well air conditioned, and it looks like you're entering into a Hollywood premiere, because it's very lush. It's a lot of red velvet. It's very comfortable. It feels like you're entering into an experience, and that's one of the attractions for this attraction. It's an experience that takes a little bit of extra time, and I really like it on both coasts, but I particularly enjoy it on the East Coast in the Magic Kingdom.
Boo hiss boo.
No, just saying that.
Yeah.
Whoa.
You're on a Disneyland podcast, Eric. Come on. No.
Well.
Yeah. That's okay. Like, we all have different things we like, and that's totally cool. I think this is great. It's nice that they have put some energy into reupholstering the chairs, redoing the carpeting, because something like this, I feel like, is one of those attractions that can easily be overlooked by maintenance and stuff like that, and not kept. But I'm really glad that they're doing that for this location.
For sure.
Well, San Fransokyo is just around the corner, as the bridge leading to the area has reopened ahead of its transformation into the San Fransokyo Bridge being complete. The existing structure has been painted international orange, just like the Golden Gate Bridge in real life. The only thing remaining to be added is the towers and cabling to turn it into more of the suspension bridge look and feel from Big Hero 6.
I love the look of this. I'm giggling because I never went to the original 1.0 Disney's California Adventure, where they had the Golden Gate Bridge as the monorail.
Oh yes,
bridge. So I'm just giggling, thinking like, oh, we've brought it back in. We found a way to bring it back, and it's cool. I love Big Hero 6, and I think that this is a great addition to this part of the park. It's fun. It doesn't hurt anybody. It doesn't add a ton, but it's enjoyable. It's something nice. And I have never seen the term international orange before.
Oh, really? That's officially the name of the paint color for the Golden Gate Bridge.
I'm sure it is, but I've always thought of it as red.
No, it's definitely like... It looks red. It's kind of like, in fact, when I was a little kid, this is way tangent. When I was a little kid, my favorite color crayon out of the crayon box was red orange, which is very similar to this international orange color, which is kind of reddish, kind of orangish.
Yeah.
I think it looks great. I'm excited for this to get completed. I'm excited to see it done. I went to Disney World a few years ago, and I loved seeing Baymax at Epcot. And Eric, don't you have a story? Was it you that had the story?
I do.
Yeah. Please share the story.
My nephew, I remember it fondly, and I was talking about this. I went back to Chicago this last weekend and spent some time with my family, and it came up then where my nephew went up to meet Baymax, and we waited in line. Well, yeah, we waited in line to see Baymax, and we got up to the front. And I'm standing back and I'm taking pictures, and I wish I had better video of it because I didn't. I just took pictures at the time. But he ran up to hug Baymax at Epcot, and he bounced off of Baymax's belly and he fell over. And the cast member nearby said, "This happens all the time." But yeah, he's just like you would imagine. He's a big inflatable robot. Sure, I'm sure there are friends of Baymax that hang out with him, but yeah, he's exactly what you would expect from the movie and the shorts. It was very delightful to meet Baymax in person and have my nephew run into him and fall down.
Man, this makes me want to kind of hang out when Baymax shows up in California Adventure and just watch for this.
Oh yeah, it was great because I'm sure it happens constantly. Well, we were worried for a little while that Star Wars Night would not happen this year. We reported this previously, but you know what? It's happening this year. Disney did one better and declared that actually May is going to be Star Wars month. The month kicks off with the return of Hyperspace Mountain and Disneyland After Dark nights. Food and merchandise offerings will also be on hand for the celebration. I'm upset I'm not going to Disneyland in May. What about you? You're going in May, right, Tech?
We are. The reason that we picked this time was because once a year, we try to do one of our Disney trips to bring producer Vern and producer James along with us. And they are huge Star Wars fans, much like you are, much like I am. And we said, there's probably going to be a Star Wars night, and we want to have them come to that because that would be a lot of fun to do with them.
Yeah.
And that's why we picked the beginning of May. And of course, we picked May 4th because a couple things. One, it perfectly lined up with Vern's longer weekend at work. So that's a plus. Don't have to use as many days off. And, it's May the 4th.
Right.
Like, why, that's what you're going to do. So, that's the day you'd want to do it. So, very excited about that. I'm also excited that it's Star Wars month, which means that they're going to have some merchandise and food that's going to stick around, not just at the Star Wars night. I think that's going to be amazing. So, very excited. Looking forward to all of this. I'm excited that we're actually going to be there for it, which is like a whole other thing. So, it will be really great.
So, you like Hyperspace Mountain? Am I assuming this?
I have only ridden it once or twice, and I do like it. Producer James has never been on it, but he's very excited to experience it.
Okay. I think it's great. I know some people are haters, and you know what? They do a good job of the overlay. Space Mountain is perfect for an overlay. Why not? And I like Hyperspace Mountain because I'm a Star Wars fan, and it's really it's pretty well done. Yeah.
I think that it adds a level of excitement to that attraction. I mean, it's exciting by itself, but it's that little extra something, right? Like the music is really good in it. The like in the regular version of Space Mountain, the speed and the stars and everything is really cool. But when you add things like laser blasts and TIE fighters flying by you and all of those things, it just adds a whole other level. And it feels faster, which is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree.
Well, weekly tiers who love a good day at the spa will be happy to hear that the Tenaya Stone Spa has expanded its offerings. New offerings include sunrise yoga at Disneyland, yoga in Disney California Adventure, and more options. For a complete list, visit the link in our show notes. Eric, are you a spa guy?
I am not a spa guy necessarily. I like having, I do like having massage.
Sure.
And
who doesn't?
Right. Why not? I've never had one at a Disney park, although I have, my parents have, my sisters have. it seems like a great place to have it done because I think Brandy has even gone to one of the spas in Walt Disney World. But yeah, why not? Especially after a run, which I hope to get back to eventually. Yeah, make this happen. It's an additional thing. It's waking up in the morning, heading over to Disneyland and doing yoga at Space Mountain in that little concourse area, that upper level. That seems super cool. I'm not into yoga. Why not?
No, absolutely. I funny enough, I used to diss yoga, but when Apple Fitness came out, they have some yoga stuff, and I actually really like doing some of the yoga stuff. If California Adventure is more your park and not Disneyland, which I know there are some listeners that is the case, you can go to the Redwood Creek area at California Adventure and also do some yoga there. They also added some things like some Citrus Groves face and body treatment, the ultimate scalp and foot massage. By the way, that sounds amazing. I love a good scalp massage. And then a foot massage. You're walking around the parks all day. A foot massage would be wonderful. A California artisanal poultice massage. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I'm sure it's great. And a Hydra facial. So lots of different options at the spa there. I did hear that spa is gorgeous. However, if you're going to do one of the yogas in the parks, it really doesn't matter how gorgeous the spa is because you're going to be in the park.
Right. Yeah, from what I've seen, the DCA, the Redwood Creek yoga sessions are more frequent. They're $30. You also have a little bit of sound meditation where you get to basically be in I mean, if you've been in the Redwood Creek Challenge Trail area, you know that it's all about the vibe and
totally.
Just sit down and just relax. So those sessions are $30. They're before the park opens. The Disneyland itself sessions where they promote the Space Mountain Concourse, but they do have some additional areas. They haven't quite said where those are going to be, and they're not as frequent in any case. But you do get snacks, water, and a souvenir towel. And all of those are and you get a souvenir PhotoPass picture. So you get to do a cool pose in front of wherever you're at. That's a lot more expensive. It's $89, but considering the experience, that's kind of cool. And that's
totally.
Less frequent. They have one coming up in a few Saturdays from now, but yeah, look up for either of those options. I think they're both pretty great.
Yeah.
Disney released a new video containing new concept art of the villas at Disneyland Hotel. The video shows artist renderings and some rooms with families moving about to show off the design of the rooms and their amenities. I think it looks pretty good. I'm a DVC guy, and I know this is a DVC tower, and I'm really interested in looking at it closer. How about you, Teg?
Now, I think this looks cool. I am one of those people, and I'm sure that there's going to be some people who come at me with pitchforks. I was one of the people that thinks that what Disney should have done a few years ago is tear down one tower at a time, the Disneyland Hotel, and build something more modern that's new. They did a great job renovating the current towers that they have there, so I got to give them props for that. But I think this tower looks like what I would expect a new renovated hotel from Disney to kind of look like, and I think it's very exciting. It looks very modern. There's lots of glass. There's these really cool 2-story suites that you can stay in. But this video is amazing because it looks like they had some demo rooms set up, like real actual rooms that were set up as a demonstration that they've put these families in to film. And it's nice to see it in person because a lot of times when especially Disney does this a lot, they show you concept art, and then when it comes to fruition, it doesn't quite seem to match what the concept art was. So it's nice to see that they have an actual physical space that they've built out, and that's more than likely kind of what it's going to look like. And I think it looks kind of cool. Now, Eric, you and I on the Hub Crawl have talked about this numerous times, that you stay on property a lot. You love staying in the bubble. And you find it's worth the value. And I don't. We differ on this. And so I don't think for the price of these things that, they're really cool rooms. For me, the value still isn't there for it, but it does look really cool. And all the people who do find value in it, I think, awesome. And I am looking forward to being able to walk through some of these spaces that are open to the public and seeing what they can do with it.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that it's a very generic sort of hotel. Well, you know what? So is the Disneyland Hotel. It was started as a motel, as we call it now, and sure, I've stayed in these rooms before, and they're not particularly exciting, but they have Disney touches, and you're staying on property, and from the exterior, I love the look of this hotel. Mm-hmm. I think it's so cool. It's so mid-mod, and sure, inside the rooms, it's not that much different from what you already see at the Disneyland Hotel, but that's what you want. That's what you're paying for. It's a hotel that looks like it was built in the 60s, and I think it's rad, to use a term that was not available in the 60s.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the idea, right, that they're going for with this end of Downtown Disney, is that new section that right now is forever a dirt pile for whatever reason, is going to be that mid-century modern look. And honestly, if they were to commit to that design language in Tomorrowland, that would go a long way. Because I think people love that look of Tomorrowland. When we look back at the 1967 remodel, 68 remodel of Tomorrowland, people loved that Tomorrowland, and we tried to make it more futuristic. And I think now Disney, and this is a little bit off topic from this, but I feel like that Disney should lean into that retro modern future kind of vibe, and I think it'd be really successful. And I think that we're seeing that with the Disneyland Hotel, and we're seeing that with that side of Downtown Disney construction. So I like it. I do think it's cool that this tower that looks so different is on the backside of the Disneyland Hotel. So from Downtown Disney, from the outside, it doesn't look out of place. And when you're in that middle section of the Disneyland Hotel, it almost feels like it's a neighboring hotel and not part of the same hotel. I don't know. I kind of like a visual consistency, and this obviously does not match that same visual consistency with the Disneyland Hotel, but I like it.
Okay. Yeah, I think it looks great. I agree.
Well, Easter is just around the corner, and Disneyland has released their full list of Easter treats for the celebration. And man, do we have a lot. Have you had a chance to look at any of these?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's across Disneyland and Disney World. Disney Parks blog just put it all in one food guide, so it's great. There's tons.
Anything that stands out that looks particularly yummy to you?
Well, I've often stated that I wish we had more fun things like the cupcakes in Tokyo Disneyland, where it's Donald Duck's butt sticking out of like he's diving for something. Well, we've got a lot of rabbit butts going on in these images.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of bunny butts, but some of this stuff looks really good. I mean, there's a lot of stuff at Disney World. I'm going to skip down to Disneyland because we are a Disneyland podcast.
Oh, I suppose. Sure, why not?
Sorry, yeah, I mean, you got a lot more options in Disney World because you have all the different resort hotels and everything like that.
Right. Yeah, it's the first. It's like the first 2/3 of this page is Disney World.
Totally. So at Disneyland, at the Candy Palace, we'll have some things like Easter eggs, which we talked about last week with the chocolate and peanut butter flavors. Mm-hmm. We have a bunny cake pop, which, I mean, cake pops are always kind of fun. A bunny crisp rice treat and a strawberry Mickey wand. At the Jolly Holiday Bakery, available through April 9th and available on mobile order, is the tuna sandwich with chips, which I'm not sure. I mean, I guess it's like a fish sandwich, right? Because of Easter. But I was kind of like, why a tuna? Like, I was like, how does that say Easter? But I guess that's probably what we're looking for there.
I guess it's fish on a Friday. It's not fried fish, which we tend to see on Fridays, but sure, tuna sandwich. Why not? Why not have some tuna salad?
You want your fried fish? Disney California Adventure Smoke Jumpers Grill has a fish and chips, which I don't know. I don't think I've ever had a fish and chips at Disney, so that might be something fun to try.
Not at Disneyland. Yeah, I've had it at Epcot where they have the UK pavilion, but yeah, not at Disneyland. So I'm up for it.
And they have some fun stuff at the Grand Californian. They've got a Mickey-shaped Easter donut, which looks like a lot of fun, and a bunny cupcake and some other things. Of course, the GCH holiday cart always has some fun stuff there. Yeah, so all of it looks tasty. It does look like a lot of sweet and less savory options, though, and I know that Disneyland really loves doing their sweet options.
Oh yeah, lots of sweets, lots of cookies and cakes and cupcakes and more cookies, Rice Krispies, and oof. A Disney Parks superfan has completed his lofty goal. He has visited all 12 Disney theme parks around the world and rode every attraction at each one of these parks in 12 days. Nathan Farsheets rode 216 rides at the 12 parks that were open when he was at each park. Holy cow.
This guy's my hero, man.
Right?
So what's interesting is he didn't really promote this. It went viral after somebody posted that they saw a patch or something on his backpack when he was at Disneyland Paris, and somebody put it on social media, and then everybody started kind of following it. Yeah, so he's also done the Parkology Challenge, which is riding every ride at a single Disney resort 7 times. He did it 5 times at Disneyland and twice at Disney World. And twice, or half of those times, he did it without Fast Pass. And the challenges were completed prior to the launch of Lightning Lane. So, man, he also did the first ever every ride coast to coast, where he rode all 94 rides at both Disneyland and Disney World within 36 hours.
Wow. I mean, considering how, like, what a feat, because some of these rides aren't open all that often. I'm looking through the article here, and he had some trouble at Disney California Adventure with the Golden Zephyr, which, I mean, that goes down when there's a light breeze.
Yep.
So some of these rides are going to be hard. Like, he really hit on the exact right cadence to get all of this done. Wow.
Yeah. I'm envious. I think it would be so cool to ride. I mean, he literally in 12 days experienced everything Disney had to offer around the world.
Yeah.
In terms of attractions.
Yeah. My biggest, I guess my biggest ambition before seeing this, like, oh wow, there's way more to do. I've always wanted to do a coast to coast. Like, start off at Orlando and come over to Anaheim or vice versa. And sure. I almost did that once, but ended up not doing it. And I know Jimmy from the Supreme Resort actually did Orlando, Anaheim, and Tokyo in 3 days.
Wow.
But just based on business trip stuff. And he made it he deliberately laid everything out so that he could go to all 3, but everything, Hong Kong, Shanghai, both Tokyo parks, like this is insane. I've never even conceived of something like this. This is impressive. Like, really impressive.
Hashtag life goals, I guess, as the kids would say. So
that's what the kids say for sure.
Psst. Avast there. It'd be too late to alter course, mateys. And there be trivia questions lurking in every cove, waiting to be answered. Listen close and keep your ready Disney knowledge handy. That be the best way to answer correctly. And mark well me words, mateys. Dead men tell no tales. You come seeking questions and long-lost Disney information, eh? Sure, you come to the proper place, but keep a weather eye open, mates, and hold on tight, with both hands, if you please. There be squalls ahead, and James and Vern waiting for them what don't answer correctly.
Hello, welcome to Trivia Land. I hear there's terror in the air.
Well, Eric's a Disney Worlder, and you're going to trivia question him on Disneyland. So, he's a little worried. And I'm also worried because I'm always worried because we never do very well.
Well, you see, that's the thing that I'm being fair about. I am bringing in the Disney World comparisons for this week.
Oh.
So I only have 3 questions for you because by the time I started doing the third one, I think it's going to take longer than the typical trivia segment.
Oh, my goodness.
So
that seems to be a theme today.
You're right. Longer than it's supposed to take. But hey, we're all having a good time doing it, right? So let's dig in. Good. So let's dig in. Our first question this week. Compared to traveling by car from MCO to the Disney Grand Californian, how many airports in the Anaheim, LA area are quicker drives from the airport to the Grand Californian?
From what?
From the Orlando airport, MCO. Which airports can you fly in the Anaheim, LAX area that would give you a quicker drive than driving from the Orlando airport to the Grand Californian?
Oh.
So, for example, if you're flying into Long Beach or Burbank or LAX, which drives are shorter? How can you get to the park quicker?
Well, I mean, John Wayne, so SNA is definitely closer. Is Long Beach closer too? And what about LAX?
Long Beach is closer because I think for this next trip we're flying into Long Beach, and Long Beach and Santa Ana I think are pretty similar in distance.
Okay, yeah, because I've always heard that Long Beach and Santa Ana are the closest, although they're not always the easiest to fly into. Although I fly Southwest, so that always works out. So at least those two. What about LAX? I think LAX is closer. It's just the time of the drive.
Yeah, LAX is like 45 minutes to an hour, depending on traffic.
Right.
Drive time is the question, not distance. Drive time.
Oh, yeah. Drive time. Oh,
so you're trying to get us to pick
time.
the closest, basically, like the shortest drive time. Is that what you're saying?
I want to know how many are quicker than your travel from the MCO airport in Orlando to the Grand Californian.
See, here's my question.
That would take you to Florida.
MCO is a fair distance from the parks, but it's not. I guess the interstate isn't all. It's a nasty interstate. But generally, when you take, back when it was in existence, you could take the Magical Express and it wouldn't even get on the interstate. You'd take side roads and you'd still get there within 45 minutes to an hour. I guess, what is it? LAX versus MCO.
Yeah. I'm going to say that Long Beach and Santa Ana will get you there faster, and I will say MCO would get you there faster than LAX.
Than LAX. Okay, I'm down with that. So two airports will get you there faster in Anaheim.
Y'all didn't even talk about Burbank. I guess you know how long it would drive.
Oh, yeah. Burbank's further away.
Yeah, Burbank's like the northern part of LA kind of situation.
I've done the Burbank drive on one of my trips, so I know it's a long one. Moving on. Question number 2. True or false? A little easier for you. Disney World is at least 5 times the size of Disneyland, speaking of total resorts, by total acreage.
I think that's true.
Disney World is bigger is what you're saying?
Yes. We all know Disney World is bigger, but is it at least 5 times bigger?
Yes.
At least 5 times. Yeah, I think so. I mean, the safari at Animal Kingdom is bigger than Disneyland itself.
That's a very fair point. So, all right, I've been easy on you. Are you ready for the doozy? Third question, last question this week. What rides can you get on at the Disneyland Resort, but not in Disney World? And to be clear, they have to be the same attraction, not just the same IP or the same ride system. I will give you the exception for Ariel as being close enough that we will include those as the same. So if you need further clarification, not interested in shows, tours, etc., just rides.
So what you're saying is attractions that are different between the two parks, right? So
yes,
for instance,
which rides are unique to the Disneyland Resort? All 26 of them.
There's 26?
There's 26. I know. I just kept going and going.
Okay, Eric, let's tag team this and let's be smart about it. Let's start in Disneyland. Now, are you counting Main Street vehicles as attractions, James?
Main Street vehicles are at both parks, so no.
Okay. So let's see, both parks have the Tiki Room, and it's not under new management, so there's still the Tiki Room, so we're not going to count that.
Close enough.
The Swiss Family Tree House. Are you counting that, James?
There is no Swiss Family Tree House at the Disneyland Resort, so why would I count that?
Oh, because
I only want the attractions at Disneyland that you can't do at Disney World.
Okay, so does the Adventureland tree or whatever count?
It's not open yet.
It's not open, so
okay,
no.
fine. Then I'm going to say Indiana Jones Adventure because Now, are you count? Now, that's not a ride system thing, right? Because it's identical to Dinosaur, but it's a different attraction.
I need both same IP and same ride system.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So Indiana Jones.
Okay, that's one. we have one.
I hear the excitement in your voice.
Okay.
Oh, man.
I'm just trying to go around the park here. So I don't think... Does Disney World have canoes, Eric?
No, it does not. Not anymore. They did briefly, but no. So canoes, I think the canoes are good.
Columbia, the sailing ship Columbia.
Oh, I wouldn't have thought of that. Yeah.
Okay. We've got... Yeah, we've... Haunted Mansion is the same. Now, I think it's the same enough. We've got Winnie the Pooh. Now, James, how are you doing this? Because we've got Winnie the Pooh in both
similar.
Parks.
They're close enough.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
I will give you that one.
All of Galaxy's Edge is the same, so we can skip through that. Now we get to Frontierland. We've got Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, which is the same.
Pretty similar, yeah.
Yep. In Fantasyland, we've got Pinocchio's...
Mr. Toad.
Mr. Toad. Oh, yep, that's the easy one. Do you have a Pinocchio?
No.
Okay, so we got Pinocchio. You have teacups. You don't have... Do you have a Casey Jr.?
We do not have a Casey Jr. or Storybook canal boats.
Okay. You don't have an Alice attraction.
No Alice.
Okay. See, we're doing good. We're up to 8.
Okay.
Let's see. You have a Carousel.
Yeah.
You have a Peter Pan.
Snow White.
Do you have a Snow White?
We do not have a Snow White because we have the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. So totally different.
You've got and It's a Small World, and we have an It's a Small. We have the Matterhorn.
Matterhorn is different. Yeah, we're at 10.
In Toontown, you guys don't have a Roger Rabbit.
We don't have a Toontown, so yeah.
No
Roger Rabbit.
You do have Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, though, so.
Well, yeah, that's elsewhere, but yeah, you're right.
Now, James, are you
Gadget's
counting...
Go Coaster?
Yeah,
or
Gadget.
Chip and Dale's Gadget Coaster, as they're calling it now.
Now, James, are you counting anything else in Toontown as an attraction, like Meet Mickey, Meet Minnie, etc.?
No, I'm not counting those.
Okay. In Tomorrowland, we have the Autopia, which is the same as the Tomorrowland Speedway, right, James?
Close enough, yep.
Okay.
Close enough, okay.
Space Mountain, same. We have you guys have the Tomorrowland Transit, sorry, we don't, so that doesn't count.
Right.
We have Buzz Lightyear
I feel the disappointment in your voice.
We have Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters. Is that close enough to the Buzz thing that they have in Florida?
Yes.
Space Ranger Spin, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
Very close.
Oh, does the Monsters, Inc. Laugh Floor count?
That's
that's at Disney World again. Dang it. I keep flip-flopping here.
That guy.
Okay, so you have Star Tours, and we have Star Tours.
Can you count churro carts? Because we don't have any of those.
That's such a disappointment.
Okay, California Adventure. This gets a lot easier. You don't have Radiator Springs Racers.
Okay, yeah.
You don't have Mater's Junkyard Jamboree. You don't have Luigi's Flying Towers.
Okay, we're at 15.
You don't have Spider-Man.
16, okay.
You don't have Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout.
I'm assuming that's different enough?
Different IPs, yep.
Okay, different IPs.
You still have PhilharMagic?
We do still have PhilharMagic,
okay, so that doesn't
count. Did you say Well, no, you said Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor, but not the Monsters Inc. ride, Dark Ride.
Yep, Monsters Inc. ride. We also have the Grizzly River Run, which I know you guys don't have. You have Soarin', we have Soarin'. Ariel, we already talked about that. Goofy's Sky School.
Yep.
The Incredicoaster. 22 is going to be the Pixar Pal Around.
Yeah, unique.
23, we're getting close. Inside Out Emotional Whirlwind.
I wouldn't have thought of that either.
The Golden Zephyr, which we just talked about.
I hate to break your train of thought, but I miscounted and forgot a couple of spaces. There are 28.
That's fine.
Oh, no.
Golden Zephyr, Inside Out. We have the Jumpin' Jellyfish.
Yeah.
26 is going to be Silly Symphony Swings.
Okay.
27, we're only a couple away.
Ooh. Let's see. It's got to be...
James, do you count the monorail as an attraction at Disneyland, but a transportation system at Disney World?
Oh, that is a really good question. I did not count them as different attractions.
Oh, okay. The subs. How did I forget the subs?
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Good call.
Okay. You said 28, James?
28 is my count.
We're missing one.
Oh, no.
Huh. You're not counting like the Ghirardelli or the Boudin Bakery tour or anything?
Nope, none of those tours or opportunities. Nope.
Okay.
Nothing in San Fransokyo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Soon to be, yeah.
I feel like I'm missing something really obvious. Oh, Jesse's Critter Carousel.
Oh, that's unique.
Okay, James, here we go. From the top. Indiana Jones, Canoes, Columbia, Mr. Toad, Pinocchio, Casey Jr., Sturbuck Lake Canal Boats, Alice, Snow White, Matterhorn, Roger Rabbit, Chippendale, Radiator Springs Racers, Mater's Junkyard Jamboree, Luigi's Flying Tires, Spider-Man, Web Slingers, Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, Grizzly River Run, Monsters, Inc., Goofy Sky School, Incredicoaster, Pixar Pal Around, Inside Out Emotional Whirlwind, Golden Zephyr, Jumpin' Jellyfish, The Submarine Voyage, Jesse's Critter Carousel, and the Silly Symphony Swings. Final answer
What a list. What a list, right? What a list.
I lost count, but I think we're good.
Hey, we'll check it out. We'll double check and triple check and probably need to quadruple check myself even because I'm probably forgetting something. Good thing I got a discussion topic to bide my time.
Well, for this week for our discussion topic, because Teresa usually handles this, and I want to give her full credit that she left the show in my hands, and I did a terrible job of coming up with a discussion topic. So we have had Erik on before, but Erik, you were on and you've talked about Run Disney. You were on when Disneyland closed, and we talked about how that was going to be different with concierge and travel booking. But today, I want people to get to know you and get to know a little bit about some things that you do outside of the podcast they may know you from, which is like the D180 here, doing the Hub Crawl with me. So you do some other stuff with podcasts. Also, you kind of have an interesting backstory of your relationship with Disney, because unlike most folks who went as a kid and just continued to go into adulthood, it's my understanding, if I'm not wrong, that you actually didn't start going to the parks until you were an adult. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, my first time at Disneyland was in 2016. I did go to Disney World multiple times as a kid.
Okay.
But yeah, that was like the Midwest thing. As a Midwesterner, yeah, that was the ideal was, let's go to Walt Disney World. And when I found out that there was a Disneyland in California, I don't think I had ever even conceived of it until I was much older, because oh wait, there's another one? Because the Disney World that I knew was the gold standard. But yeah, when I finally went in 2016, it was it was gearing up for a race. When I was doing Run Disney races frequently, this was you know what? I really want to check out this Disneyland place. And I was listening to podcasts and trying to understand it and looking at sites like Yesterland. Yesterland was one of those sites that kind of introduced me to this other world that I hadn't seen before. So it's part of the reason why I can look at some place like California Adventure and appreciate maybe a little bit, the calamity that it might have started out as and the calamity that it is now. I like that a lot of people have this history and have this ownership of the parks, and you can feel that. Even from my first time there were it was so obvious that people there felt comfortable in a way that I felt comfortable at Walt Disney World, even going there just every other year. And to see these people that are going to Disneyland so often, I started to like sense a kinship amongst them, the people that were there all the time. And I know things have changed a little bit in recent years, but yeah, that was one of those ideas that was very foreign to me initially. Like, somebody can have an annual pass to go to a Disney park? That's crazy. But yeah, it was all part of that initial trip, and seeing people that knew a park that I had only seen on websites and only heard about in podcasts was a big deal.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to come over and experience Disneyland. Now, I give you a lot of grief because your home park,
True.
if you will, is Walt Disney World. And, I have a backstory with Disney World that, my home park is Disneyland. And for a long time during the late 80s, early 90s, a lot of emphasis was put on Disney World by the Walt Disney Company and Michael Eisner to kind of grow that out and maximize Disney World. And so during that time, it felt like Disneyland in a lot of ways kind of got ignored. And it always frustrated me that the place that had all of the celebrations, the place that was always in the spotlight was Disney World, when I loved Disneyland so much. So I kind of got that like sibling rivalry almost with that resort.
I see it, yeah.
But I will tell you that I give you a lot of crap about it, and we joke a lot between parks, right? Just like people pick on things like, Apple versus Android or Mac versus PC, that kind of stuff from the tech side, or, whatever. And so, but I will tell you, I kind of look at them. It's such a mind-blowing experience to grow up in one park for your whole life. And I'm sure you felt this way about Disneyland, is when you first go to a park that has some of the same attractions in it as your home park, and they're the same attractions, but they're different. It's kind of a weird feeling, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And we made the weird mistake of the first time we went to Disneyland, we stayed at the Grand Californian, and we walked out the doors of the Grand Californian into downtown Disney, and we went left because I didn't know where I was going. And we went left and went all the way down to the Disneyland Hotel, and I said, okay, we went the wrong direction. We ended up taking the monorail back in from that station there. So our first time in Disneyland, we were dropped off in the middle of Tomorrowland, and my wife was confused. I was confused. And it was really interesting to pop in there and go, okay, this is vaguely familiar from all of the things that I've seen and all of the stuff that I've read. Okay, where do we want to go? But the next day, we definitely made sure that even though you could head through the Grand Californian into California Adventure, we made sure that we went through the actual regular upfront, here are the gates to Disneyland, so that we could have that experience. And that's really important. And it's important to a lot of people. And I know it's important to my wife. Even at Walt Disney World, she doesn't feel like she's at Walt Disney World until we go through the front gates of the Magic Kingdom. So
100%.
Yeah, you've got to see the Mickey floral sculpture. You've got to see the train. You have to see, and this is something that is the same experience at both parks or both coasts. And yeah, it was really weird that we popped into Tomorrowland that first day, and I don't remember. We figured out where we were going. I don't remember a whole lot of where we went next, but yeah, we had to have that grounding experience of this is the way people go into the park. And right. It's still weird sometimes to go to Disneyland and realize how close everything is. Like park hoppers, like that whole debate at Disneyland, I consider it it's a non-issue. You get a park hopper because at some point you're going to want to go over to DCA. And at some point, you're going to want to, if you start out at DCA, you're going to want to go over to Disneyland. It's right there. Like, it's just a thing. And at Disney World, you can make a case for, well, we're not going to do park hoppers on this trip because we're just going to spend all day at the park that we started out at because it takes forever to get anywhere. Even though, I can make a case for some of the parks are easier to get between. You could take a boat. You can walk between certain parks. You can take a monorail between certain parks. But it's not the same experience as these two parks are right across the street from each other.
Right. Now, I will say that when we went to Disney World, there are a couple things that I think as a Disneylander going to Disney World for the first time, you got to take some things into consideration. One, like you just said, park hopping in Disney World is different. I don't think that it's necessarily a necessity. And in fact, because of the Disney World closes their parks at different times, just like Disneyland closes DCA and Disneyland at different times to kind of even out the crowding of people exiting. The plus to get a park hopper in Disney World is, hey, I want to maximize all of the time I can in the park. So maybe I go to one of the parks and it closes a little bit earlier, then I could park hop over to the Magic Kingdom, which is always the one that seems to be open the absolute latest, and get those extra, hour or two in the park there. But like you said, it's not as easy to hop parks as it is at Disneyland. And then also, I tease you a lot about staying at Disneyland, Disney hotels on property at Disneyland. In Disney World, I 100% have the opposite opinion. I think that if you are going to Disney World, you 100% should find one of the Disney hotels that is in your price range and stay there. Because
absolutely,
you get so many more amenities on property, as they say, than you do outside. When James and I went, I was like, I had the Disneyland mentality. I said, we're not going to pay $100 and whatever a night. There's this place that's only a few minutes away, and they've got a shuttle, and it's I think it was like $85 a night. I'm like, let's just do that. Man, I tell you, every night when we had to come home from the Epcot parking lot, because that's where all the shuttles go, I thought to myself every single night, I said, we should have just stayed on property. It would be worth the extra little bit of money to go between. So when Teresa and I went during the pandemic, we stayed on property, and it was glorious because we took the Skyliner to two things, which, by the way, I love the Skyliner.
Absolutely.
You're able to get around things. The Skyliner is kind of like the monorail, in which it's a form of transportation, but it's also kind of a fun ride, and you get to see the property from a different vantage point. It's just nice.
Oh, man, the Skyliner. It's a complete game changer for so many of the properties at Walt Disney World. It's I can feel, just talking about it, I feel like I'm on it right now. I'm having those tingles where I'm like, the Skyliner. Feeling the breeze blowing through those little vents and everything. We were all talking early on when, it's not going to be air conditioned? Oh, this is going to be terrible. No, as long as it's moving, it's glorious.
It's true. It's so
wonderful.
Weird. The other thing, too, about the Skyliner that I didn't give it really a fair chance was I'm a monorail fan. And I looked at them building the Skyliner as an excuse not to extend the monorail to places. And I love the monorail. And I think a lot of guests love the monorail. And I'll tell you, though, I was a convert. The first time I rode the Skyliner, I was like, okay, this is cool. Like, this isn't the monorail cool, but this is a different type of cool, and I'm here for it, and I love it.
And it's so much easier and cheaper to extend what they do with the Skyliner. There have been rumors for a while that they're going to take the line over to Coronado Springs and then over to Animal Kingdom. I welcome it because it's easier. It's easier for them to build. It's something that's stock, and they don't have to put in this large concrete rail system.
Right.
And if they had been, if it was affordable, they would have extended the monorail years ago.
Right.
Because they were talking about it for the longest time. Like, let's head over to what is now Disney Springs. They never did it. But with the Skyliner, I think there's a chance they could extend this stuff because it's not as expensive for them to do, and people love it. Everybody loves this. The only problem is it has to shut down when there's inclement weather, which is at certain times of year it's pretty frequent,
right?
But that's okay.
Yeah, and I think that once they build out the next phase, if they get around to it, to connect Animal Kingdom, I think it's going to be glorious, because I would love to be able to take Disney transportation that's not a bus to everywhere. And once you complete that, between the Skyliner and the monorail, you could get to all of the resorts.
Right.
Now, it gets a little complicated at Epcot because it drops you off at the International Gateway, and to get to the monorail, you either have to go through Epcot or somehow around Epcot to get to the front where the monorail is. So I think they could improve that a little bit. Yeah. But if you don't have a ticket or a park hopper and it's not your day, it's a little hard to go through Epcot.
Yeah, that is more complicated these days. There were times where my wife and I did go to. We took the Skyliner from the Riviera and went to Epcot. Went through Epcot just to take the monorail up to Magic Kingdom. And I guess we've done that since. It's not completely out of the question, but it's a little more complicated these days. You gotta have some sort of park reservation at some point in your discourse. So yeah, you've got to start out your day really just start out your day at Epcot. If you're staying anywhere along the Skyliner, unless you're going to Hollywood Studios, yeah, just start out at Epcot. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Now, one last thing I'll gush about Disney World, and then I will go back to gushing about Disneyland, is I don't think that you can find a more magical experience than you do getting on the boat on the far side of the Seven Seas Lagoon and coming across the lagoon and seeing Cinderella Castle in the distance.
So you're talking about the ferry, the big ferry. Yeah.
That is magical.
I love it. It's so great. And I will say I also enjoy the smaller boats. If you're staying at Wilderness Lodge, definitely hop in one of the smaller boats and take that over. If you're staying at one of the monorail resorts like Contemporary or Grand Floridian or the Polynesian, I prefer heading over to the Magic Kingdom by boat. I don't know what it is. Going over the water, in some ways, it's got to be what they intended, because you can't see it from afar. You can kind of see hints of it. You can see a little bit of the castle, but you hop on a boat and you're just, it's revealed to you, the Magic Kingdom. And I love it so much. Absolutely.
It feels like a fairy tale, like those fairy tale reveals. It is that. So I highly recommend that if anybody is listening to this and they have not been to the Magic Kingdom at Disney World yet, and they are planning at some point going, that even if you're like me and you're a monorail fan, your very first day of your very first visit to Magic Kingdom, go to the Ticket and Transportation Center or the Transportation and Ticket Center, whatever order they're calling it now,
right.
And ride the ferry, because we rode the ferry that first day, and we came in the middle of the lagoon. There's these little small islands, and it kind of blocks your initial view of the park. And as you come around one of those, it like reveals itself, and it's like a magical kingdom in the distance. And it's so surreal. And people probably think I'm nuts trying to describe this, but there is something really magical about that.
Yeah. Getting off a bus and walking over. Sure. It's convenient. It's not that convenient. But it's okay. But yeah, taking that boat across. Oh yeah. There aren't that many words to describe it without using Disney's, go-to terms of magical and wonder and dream.
It's so true.
Amazing. It really is. It's a life-changing experience just seeing it show up in the distance.
Now I've got to ask you another question.
Okay.
So we could stop gushing about Disney World, maybe. So
fine.
You do another show. Now, I am actually on it this week. You have another podcast that you do that's called The Supreme Resort.
Correct.
Which pits Disneyland versus Disney World, or Disney World versus Disneyland, depending on how you want to order it. And by the way, when I first heard of this concept, I was so mad that I didn't think of it as a podcast before you guys did, because it is a brilliant idea to basically kind of do this. So for somebody who's not listened to it before, or didn't listen, or is a newer listener to DL Weekly and didn't hear that I was on it before and pushed over for that, how does the Supreme Resort work? What's the idea behind it?
The main idea is it's literally the Supreme Resort, Land v. World. So you can say Disneyland versus Disney World because it's in the title, Land v. World. And the initial premise behind this was, let's take all of the attractions at Disneyland and pit them versus the attractions at Disney World. And when we start to build up to a critical mass, then let's pit a land versus a land. So our first land versus land was, Main Street versus Main Street. We've done episodes of Big Thunder Mountain versus Big Thunder Mountain, and we've done some more, bizarre sort of things like the Matterhorn versus Everest, because they're both roller coasters and they both have a Yeti in them. And our most controversial episode ever, which I was not around for, was Haunted Mansion versus Haunted Mansion. Like there are so many episodes so many attractions where people have a deep-seated feeling about them, and we delve into the history behind them. We delve into specific details to try to make a case, and we're trying to stay away from the easy things like, well, Walt touched this one. Walt created this attraction, and he was on this attraction, versus Walt Disney World, where you see things like, well, it's big, it's bigger, so you can have a larger thing. So we try to stay away from the easy stuff like that. We're trying to pit them against each other. We're trying to say, how are their cues similar? What's the impact on the land? When you look at the Tower of Terror versus in Hollywood Studios versus the Guardians of the Galaxy in DCA, what is their impact on their respective lands? That's kind of where we're going with all of this. And it's a great concept. Like Teg said, it's something that hey, we love having Teg on because he likes the general idea behind it, and it is a great concept. And I wasn't along with the show. I listened to the show early on, and I joined it later. But yeah, at its heart, people always ask which one is better, Disney World, Disneyland, and there are a lot of easy answers like, oh well, I mean, how long are you gonna spend there? But when you really start to look into the stories behind some of these attractions, there's a lot more to talk about. And that's our concept, is we get really nerdy about some of this stuff.
What I really enjoy is one of the things that we don't do a ton of. We do a little bit here on DL Weekly of like history or deep dives on things.
Yeah.
And we used to do that a lot more in the older episodes. We've been very lucky and fortunate to be able to have some great guests to come on. And much like yourself, Eric, but like, some Imagineers and stuff like that. So we want to take those opportunities when we have them. So we haven't been doing as many deep dives. But if you're interested in the history, and people that have spent a lot of time, to be honest with you, learning the history of these things and coming up with a good argument, really, of why is this attraction the supreme attraction? Why is this restaurant or land the supreme attraction or land or restaurant? And so I really like the fact that you can listen to an episode and learn a ton about both coasts and attractions or venues or whatever at both coasts. And even if you don't care which one's better, you still learn about both. And you can learn because you may have the same, the Haunted Mansion. You may have the Pirates of the Caribbean. You may have Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. But as we kind of alluded to earlier, they're the same attraction, but there's enough differences between them at both parks that they are different attractions. And there might be different backstories and different things because different people worked on them at different times. And I find that fascinating, and I find it really interesting. So if you're a Disney Parks fan, I would say that the Supreme Resort is a great podcast to listen to to really dive deep and hear the stories and the history and everything of both coasts, both versions of an attraction, both versions. How many podcasts do you listen to that talk about dining locations? They've done dining locations. One of my favorite episodes that I listened to of the Supreme Resort was Rancho del Zocalo versus, what was it over in Disney World?
It's Pecos Bills.
Pecos Bills, and listening to the history and the Frito kid and whatever. So,
oh gosh, that was one of my favorites.
Yeah,
sure.
I love that episode. You guys found some wonderful audio clips from back in the day to play and accentuate your storytelling with that. And so I recommend go and look at their back catalog. They have quite a back catalog. You might even find yourself surprised by what you learn about things. For instance, I'm not going to give anything away, but the episode I was just on that posted this last week, I thought when I signed up to go on the show, it was putting 4 presidents against each other from the Hall of Presidents. And I knew without a shadow of a doubt which president was going to win. And guess what? That president didn't win. And I was shocked that I had come around to a different way of thinking about it.
We were all shocked. Even the guy who was arguing for the president that won was fairly surprised at the results to go, oh, I didn't think there was that much here in this argument. Yeah, that was fantastic. That was a great time.
And I think that that's the strength of that, right? Is like you might find yourself being surprised. A year ago, they did a March Madness bracket trying to figure out the best pre-show, which is what I mentioned earlier with the Muppet Vision 3D. And so, I love the fact that you can be surprised by some things and you can learn some stuff. Like, what interesting questions you would never think about, like what actually constitutes a pre-show? What are we defining as a pre-show?
We drew a line.
Where does the attraction start and the pre-show end? And I think a lot of people listening and a lot of guests don't kind of think about that. It's just a cohesive storyline. So some things to ponder for sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right, Eric. Well, I want to ask you a question that we ask all of our guests, and I think it'd be really fascinating to learn this from you. So we usually ask, when you go to Disneyland on your first day, which way do you go? So when you go into the park, do you go left towards Tomorrowland? Do you go straight through Fantasyland? Do you go right towards Tomorrowland? I'm sorry, left towards Adventureland is what I meant in the beginning. And right towards Tomorrowland. Yeah. My question for you is, there's 4 parks in Disney World. So I'm going to start with some parks, and I want you to tell me, when you go on an average trip, where do you go first? So in Animal Kingdom, where do you normally go first? And you might be somebody who doesn't normally go one particular way, but where are you most likely to go, I guess, if that's the case?
Animal Kingdom is interesting because there are 3 different ways that you can go. I guess like even Disneyland itself, there are 3 different directions you can go. I tend to go left, not into Pandora, but into the Africa portion. Yeah.
Okay. And is there something that you're going towards over there for any particular reason?
Usually it's to head toward the safari. It's nice to get in the morning, although I used to tell everybody head toward the safari as early as possible because all of the animals will be out and they'll be interested in doing things. But the safari has kind of changed in recent years, and I've had some very interesting experiences with rhinos in particular in the late afternoon. So take the Kilimanjaro safaris any time of the day. You'll have a good time.
All right. Hollywood Studios, where do you go?
Probably right down Hollywood Boulevard toward the Rock and Roller Coaster and the Tower of Terror.
See, I find Hollywood Studios hard because there's not a good flow in that park.
Yeah.
A lot of Disney parks, you kind of can go one way and it kind of loops around and interconnects. It's slightly better now that they've connected Galaxy's Edge and Toy Story Land and everything.
Uh-huh.
But when we went before that was open, it felt like you kind of just kept going towards dead ends and having to backtrack a lot, which is so weird for a Disney park.
Yeah, that was the the arrangement of it. And it's partly to blame the original Backlot Studio tour, where if you went to the right, then you would head over not the hard right down Hollywood Boulevard, the soft right toward the Backlot Tour tram, and you would take the tram tour and then the walking tour, and that was most of the appeal of the park, was to head through these back areas that you couldn't just walk through. And they've been kind of dealing with that ever since, is how to change the flow and make it a better walkable park.
It's getting there for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Definitely.
Epcot. I know you love Epcot, so Epcot.
If I'm heading through the International Gateway, which is where I tend to go because I'm coming from my DVC resort over at the Riviera, then I'm heading in, and it's either the UK or the UK on the left, or Canada on the right. Wait, no. I'm sorry. The UK and Canada on the left and France on the right. Then I tend to go left because that's where the attractions are. And coming in early in the morning through that gate, I tend to go left. Even later on in the day, I tend to go left. If we're coming in through the front gate, I just go straight to Spaceship Earth. And from there, I might go left. Yeah, I'm thinking I tend to go left.
Spaceship Earth is an underrated attraction.
These days, maybe it's one of the attractions you can actually get to, and sometimes there's a decent line, but even without the communication update that they were going to do, or the storytelling update they were going to do, now it's focused on communication, and they were going to do an update on storytelling that they abandoned. I still love Spaceship Earth because it reminds me of, it's almost the same attraction as when I was a kid, and it's still just this massively entertaining dark ride in a giant ball that even my mother thought was the entire park of Epcot.
Right. That seems to be how it's marketed.
Right.
I will tell you, I love Judi Dench, and Judi Dench is the narrator currently, and I love it. And I love her voice. I love the idea that it's about communication and how we've communicated over time. I think it's the pinnacle or one of the pinnacles of what Disney is great at, which is educating people, but also entertaining at the same time. And I really love it.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. And I love Jeremy Irons. Jeremy Irons was the previous narrator, and I remember his narration pretty well from previous trips. But yeah, Judi Dench, I love it. Yeah, she's fantastic, and that focus really brings the ride together.
I'm also impressed that it boggles my mind that entire attraction is inside of the giant golf ball, because when you're in there, it feels massive.
Oh yeah. One of my bucket lists, I know people have taken a walking tour through the attraction. I would do it in a heartbeat. I would pay, I don't care how much. I want to do it someday. I want to take a walking tour through that attraction with the lights on more than any other thing.
That's
for
amazing.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Finally, Magic Kingdom.
Magic Kingdom. Similar to Disneyland, I'll go left, except at Disneyland, I tend to go left to stop and get some breakfast at Jolly Holiday. At the Magic Kingdom, I tend to go left because I'm going to start my day in Adventureland and go through the park that direction. I don't know why. I never start my day in Tomorrowland at Disneyland or the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah. I feel like there's a distinct group of people, right? You're either a huge like Space Mountain fan, and that's where you want to go because like the lines are always long, and so you kind of want to head over there. For me, I feel like I want to get my day started, and I feel like at least at Disneyland, I feel that a lot of the bigger attractions that are most well known are on the left-hand side. So you go and you get Indy and Jungle Cruise and Pirates and Haunted Mansion and Big Thunder, and that's all over there.
Right.
Where for me, Tomorrowland is the big pull for me over there is Space Mountain or the Matterhorn, which isn't really Tomorrowland, but it's kind of adjacent there. So
yeah. I will say I did have a very memorable day where I was at a conference and I had my last day in Orlando. had several hours before my flight, so I went to the Magic Kingdom and I went right, and I went on Space Mountain 4 times in a row early in the morning, and then went to be our guest for breakfast and then left the park. So that was pretty great.
Wow. All right. Well, Erik, thanks for talking about land versus world and adult Disney landing and all of that stuff. And I hope our listeners enjoy hearing kind of about that perspective. Like I said, you've been on the show for other things, but never really about yourself. And people just kind of know you. We for a long time as the voice of DL Weekly, and then doing the D180 and all of that stuff. Of course, as always, if people want to book vacation, Adventures by Disney, Disneyland Paris, Disney World, Disneyland, Alani, get in contact with concierge, and they'd be happy to set that up with you. They do all the hard work for you. So I know you. I also joke with you that you're on a bunch of podcasts. So where can people find you on the interwebs if they want to listen to you elsewhere?
Well, my 3 podcasts that I tend to be on are The Hub Crawl, where Teg and I are co-hosts, and you should listen to that. It's a lot of fun. We have a lot of great guests who show up. Sometimes they're listeners to DL Weekly, and sometimes they're authors and other podcasters. It's a lot of fun, and Teg, I'm so glad you talked me into doing that, because it really is. It's just, you got to find some good guests, and anybody who wants to show up and talk about Disney stuff, Disney corporate, Disney movies, Disney parks. It's always a good time. That's one of my shows. The Supreme Resort, as we talked about, that's another one of my shows where I've been on for a couple of years now. And then my third show that I am generally on is Ears Up podcast. That's Ears with a Z, because Jason, the creator of the podcast, wanted to be edgy several years ago when he started it, and he regrets it ever since. But yes, Ears Up with a Z, and I've been on there for a while now, and we're it's another Disneyland, generally sort of Disneyland podcast, but we also talk about Disney World and Disney movies, and we get into the history of a lot of attractions and the Disney company itself. One of my favorite episodes recently was about the Disney studio during World War II and the efforts they made to continue as a studio, to continue to make money, keeping doing these little animated features about everything. Some of them were propaganda, some of them were just how to turn this wrench on this thing. Some of them were very operational sort of videos, and really good stuff. And those are my main 3.
I always joke that you have a lot, but then I realize that I am at 2 and I've been guest something. So same thing.
There you go. Not too different.
Yeah, I know. We're a glutton for podcast punishment, I guess.
It's okay. I'll be the only weekly tier without an answer. Make sure you send your questions to Producer James or Producer Vern at trivia@dlweekly.net.
Hello and welcome back to Trivia Land. Erik, good to get to know you a little bit better. Now we get to find out if you're a winner or not, right?
Uh-oh.
That's right, Erik. You're a winner in my book.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, so sweet. Well, let's dig in. Our first question this week was, compared to traveling by car from MCO, the Orlando airport, to the Disney Grand Floridian, how many airports in the Anaheim, LA area are quicker drives from the airport to the Grand Californian? There's, like 5 airports you could fly into in the Anaheim, LA area. So you got Long Beach and Santa Ana, which are both quicker drives. The average I found between Google Maps and Apple Maps from MCO, the Orlando airport, was about 26 to 32 minutes. Long Beach was around 25 to 28. Santa Ana much quicker. And then Burbank, LAX, and Ontario were all a little bit longer in the reverse order. So you said 2. You got it right.
Woo!
long-winded example and answer for that one.
Unfortunately, Eric, I don't have a fancy graphic in our Discord chat of us high-fiving each other, so I'm just going to have to put the graphic of me and Teresa high-fiving.
There you go.
And we'll just pretend that you're Teresa.
Question number 2, is it true or false? Disney World is at least 5 times the size of Disneyland by total acreage. Thinking of the resort as a whole, it is true. Every number I found, which there's been discrepancies apparently of how much land there is for the Disney World Resort, was 25, 27, or 30,000 acres. You think you'd get that one down a little closer. Disneyland, oh, sorry, that's Disney World. Disneyland was consistently about 5,000 acres. So no matter what, 5 times, you're good.
Well, you
nice
got to remember, too, that, Disney owned one size of land, and over time they've actually sold parcels and stuff off. So that is probably some of the discrepancies, is that originally they bought a ton of land, and then for various reasons they've sold little small chunks of it off over time.
And there were some parcels that they couldn't buy.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in my reading about it, it said about half of the acreage that they own down in Florida they haven't used yet, which is crazy, but that's probably because it'd be difficult to get into or whatever. The last question, the doozy of the question, what rides can you get on at the Disneyland Resort, but nowhere in Disney World? To be clear, I'm looking for the same attraction, not just same IP or ride system. I want things that you actually ride, not just shows or tours. As we counted, there were like 28 or 29 of them. I'm just going to give you full credit. If I want to get technical, technically the carousels are different IPs between the two of them. One is King Arthur, whereas Disney World is...
Prince Charming.
Hey, good work, Eric. I knew you could come up with that one. Very close, but not quite the same. And the only other one I wasn't sure on my checklist if you actually said, because you were moving through them really quick, was the Mark Twain Riverboat. But since you said Columbia, I was pretty sure you mentioned Mark Twain.
Did not mention Mark Twain because I figured they're both paddle boats. They're just named different. One's the Liberty
Mark
Bell,
Twain and Liberty Bell are pretty close.
Yeah, that's true. So I did go close on a lot of the other ones. So, but anyway, I'm impressed with how well you two did moving around the park and figuring out what you had and what you didn't. So 3 for 3 week for the two of you. Might even be the first perfect week of the year.
Yeah, you took it easy on us. Come on.
That.
Eric, just got to make sure that when you come back, I'll make it a little harder for you.
All right.
And if you listeners want to help me do that, you can send me some trivia. It's trivia@dlweekly.net.
Well, we will be back next week with more Disneyland news and information.
Until then, go out and enjoy the parks.
Please remain seated until the podcast comes to a complete stop and the doors have opened. Then collect your belongings, watch your head, and step carefully from the episode. On behalf of all of our crew, thanks for traveling with us, and we hope you have a happy and memorable visit here at DL Weekly.